Recording in
What's up,
progress.
everybody, here on Superpowered Pop with Dan Tortora. Happy to be here with you, hanging out inside of the PBKW studios. What does that mean? It's Parker, Banner, Kent, and Wayne. Parker, Banner, Kent, and Wayne is our exclusive studio partner. It is the name of my favorite shop to go to for comic books, and you can find them, comic books, games, and more by going to 21500 Catawba Ave, Suite A in Cornelius, North Carolina, just outside of Charlotte. Awesome place to go to. Fantastic people led by Matt Milburn, and I can't thank them enough for just how awesome their location is and everything that they offer to us. So much appreciation to Parker, Banner, Kent, and Wayne. Love working with y'all, and thank y'all so much for the hard work that you have put in over the years to truly be something remarkable that makes me want to come and see you all the time. And I feel very blessed when I have the opportunity to do that. So, with that being said, we got a lot to get into here. Okay? A lot to get into. To give you a little crash course in the Marvel Cinematic Universe official timeline. This is how the movies go in official timeline. Because I'm going to get into the Marvel Cinematic Universe, what it is, what's happening, what had happened, what's happening now, where do we go from here, how do we correct some things. So the Marvel Cinematic Universe in order is Captain America, the first Avenger, and then it is Agent Carter, the TV show. Then it's Captain Marvel, then it's Iron Man 2. The only one not made by Marvel Studios that was considered connected to it before this Fox merger and all these other things that happened was Universal's The Incredible Hulk, which featured a different actor, Ed Norton, as the Hulk instead of Mark Ruffalo. Then we have a bunch of Marvel shorts, one about Thor's hammer, then the movie Thor, then the consultant short, then the Avengers, then the Item 47 short, then Thor the Dark World. Then we had, this is the MCU complete order, as I was saying. Iron Man 2, All Hail the King short, Captain America, The Winter Soldier, Guardians of the Galaxy Volume 2, I Am Groot Season 1 and 2, Daredevil Season 1. Now we got the Netflix coming in here to the timeline. So Daredevil Season 1, Jessica Jones Season 1, Avengers Age of Ultron, Ant-Man, Daredevil Season 2, Luke Cage Season 1, Iron Fist Season 1, The Defenders, where Luke Cage, Daredevil, Jessica Jones, and Iron Fist all came together on the Netflix series, Captain America Civil War, Black Widow, Black Panther, Spider-Man Homecoming, The Punisher Season 1, Doctor Strange, Jessica Jones Season 2, Luke Cage Season 2, Iron Fist Season 2, Daredevil Season 3, Thor Ragnarok, which is Thor 3, Punisher Season 2, Jessica Jones Season 3, Ant-Man and the Wasp, Avengers Infinity War, Avengers Endgame, Loki Season 1, What If Season 1, WandaVision, those all being TV shows on Disney+, Shang-Chi, The Falcon and the Winter Soldier on Disney+, Spider-Man Far From Home, Eternals, Doctor Strange and the Multiverse of Madness, Hawkeye's Disney Plus show, Moon Knight's Disney Plus show, Wakanda Forever, aka Black Panther 2, Echo on Disney Plus, She-Hulk on Disney Plus, Miss Marvel on Disney Plus, Thor Love and Thunder, which is Thor 4, Werewolf by Night, which is a special presentation, Guardians of the Galaxy's Holiday Special, which is a special presentation, Ant-Man and the Wasp Quantumania, which is Ant-Man 3, Guardians of the Galaxy Volume 3, Secret Invasion on Disney Plus, The Marvels, Loki Season 2, and What If Season 2, folks. So that is what it looks like. That is the full order of things in the Marvel Cinematic Universe. So, what do I think's going well? What do I think's not? Well, let's start with the things that I think need work. Thor Love and Thunder, to me, was my least favorite Marvel Cinematic Universe movie. Now, why was it my least favorite movie? Well, because I think there was a lot of elements in the movie that had nothing to do with the movie. I don't like them talking about who had the most souls and yelling out Satan. I don't like the fact that they say they couldn't show blood in this movie, allegedly, because the movie was for children. Yet they talked about orgies for minutes with Zeus, which was disgusting. So why would sex be for children to hear from, but not blood? So, I mean, if I had a kid right now, I'd rather them see a movie where there's a little bit of blood than hear anything about that other stuff that Zeus and company were talking about in that movie. It was a terrible movie. And I'm not here to discredit the writers and the director and the producer and the actors. I'm not saying that they set out to make a bad movie. It was just a movie that was a lot of nothingness, a lot of confusion, a lot of strange, not doctor, and it just, I mean, I saw it multiple times, and I tried to like it, but you had the God Butcher without the Necrosword because they can't use a symbiote, allegedly, at the time. So you have a villain that can't use his weapon from the comics, so why even make the villain? And then on top of that, you are trying to tell this story about a God Butcher who butchers one god off camera the entire movie. Stupid. And there was just so many parts of the movie that seemingly had nothing to do with anything. So, and then we finally get to see Eternity. We get to see one of these, universal forming entities, and that was great, but the movie was not great, and so it kind of made that scene lose its luster there a little bit because the movie itself was just not fun to watch. The Marvels was okay, but there was a ton of plot holes in the Marvels, and my frustration with the Marvels is you could have easily said Ronan the Accuser dies on Xandar in Guardians of the Galaxy Volume 1. Before, when he had the Power Stone, the Purple Stone, inside of his staff, there were remnants of it that broke into the staff, and that's why the staff is purple. That's why she only needs one bangle to hit toward the sky and hit it against her staff instead of the two bangles to open up these portals into a different multiverse, because the Power Stone has the power to couple with the bangle to open up these portals. They didn't say it was the Power Stone, but it was glowing purple. They didn't say it was the staff of Ronan the Accuser, but it looked exactly the same. They could have easily, because she was a Kree member, and so, Dar-Benn was a Kree member, Ronan was a Kree member. They could have just said it was his daughter. His dying wish was for her to avenge him. That would have cleared up a lot of things in the Marvels. Instead, she was just a random villain that was just mad, and she was stealing resources. I feel like these are like side character things. Like the entire plot of the Marvels could have been a side story. It's not a main story. And I like the characters. I like Captain Marvel. Her power is incredible. I like Photon. I feel like we didn't really get to understand any of Photon's powers. What is this light? How can she move it? What can she do with it? Why is Miss Marvel a mutant and not an Inhuman if they both exist in the MCU and they're both canon? Why would you change her if they're both canon? So there's just a lot of confusion in the Marvels. However, the end credit scene brings us to the X-Men, and that was pretty cool. And now the question is, why do we have Kelsey Grammer's Beast? And I talked about this in a prior episode of Superpowered Pop, which you can definitely go and check out on all of our outlets. We're on youtube.com/superpoweredpop. We're on all of our social media at Superpowered Pop. That's Superpowered, Powered, Pop. And, you could definitely check us out on Facebook, Twitter, and Instagram, or X, I should say, instead of Twitter. And, of course, we're on Facebook right now doing the show. I am just thrown off about the Marvels again. It's like, it wasn't a good movie. I really wanted it to be a good movie, and it just wasn't. But at the same time, the thing about the Marvels is it brings us into the X-Men. And bringing us into the X-Men is awesome. So when we get brought into the X-Men, now it's like, okay, well, why do we have Kelsey Grammer? So now we're in that Fox universe. And where, so in this Fox universe, and like I said, I did another show about this on what universe I think that we're in. And I think that it's the same universe. I think that the X-Men that we saw in the original X-Men 1, 2, and 3, which is X-Men X2, X-Men United, and X-Men The Last Stand, which was X-Men 3, I think what we're seeing is that the X-Men and why they're bringing the TV show back for X-Men 97 is that I think the X-Men universe that we are in, I think that that universe from the first 3 X-Men that were done by 20th Century Fox, I think that that is the same universe as the X-Men animated series, which is now getting new episodes with X-Men 97. So I think they're both within the same universe, and I think that there's no coincidence why we are seeing the X-Men cartoon return, and that we've now seen Kelsey Grammer, and we know that Professor Charles Xavier is alive. We also saw him in his floating yellow chair when he was part of the Illuminati in Earth 838. So we're either in Earth 838 or we're in another Earth that's the X-Men universe. But there's got to be a reason why we had the floating chair in Earth 838 and Doctor Strange in the Multiverse of Madness, why Kelsey Grammer's back as Beast, and why that Beast looks like the Beast that we're seeing in the TV show, and why the TV show is getting new episodes for the cartoon. There's got to be a reason why all this is connected, or it makes no sense. Now, but here's my problem with Marvel Studios. You would think that there has to be a reason why things are connected, or else they make no sense. But that's the problem with Marvel Studios right now, is that a lot of things that they're doing don't make any sense. Shang-Chi is kind of hung out there in the world. We don't know what's going on with the Ten Rings. We don't know any of these connections. They tried to lean into Kang. And here's my thing. You don't have to have another big bad right away. We didn't know anything about Thanos when the Marvel Cinematic Universe started. We did not know. I mean, you knew from the comic books, but in the Marvel Cinematic Universe, there was no Thanos. There was no grand threat. We were just going character by character. We were learning about Iron Man and Captain America and Thor and the Hulk. We didn't know about this giant purple guy. And why was he floating in the chair? And what was his master plan? And when he put on this gold glove, why did he say, fine, I'll do it. I'll have to do things myself. I'll do it myself. Why was any of that stuff happening, right? So then you have to go back and you have to do your research. And when you look at how Marvel developed 10 years, some of that, I mean, we were going years of time without knowing there was a big bad, without knowing that there was a crisis that could affect every planet in the universe. And now it's like, okay, well, Thanos attacked the universe. Now we're going to attack the multiverse. So now we need Kang, and we have to introduce Kang, and we have to jump right into Kang. You didn't have to jump right into Kang. You never had to jump right into Kang. And to me, I'm not sold that Kang should be the guy. And I don't think Kang is going to be the guy. Now, Jonathan Majors obviously has things going on outside of the movie realm. I don't fear Kang, right? We've already seen Kang fight one Avenger. And he says to Ant-Man, like, haven't I killed you? Are you the one with the hammer? Oh, it's so hard to remember because I've killed so many Avengers, blah, blah, blah. But then Ant-Man beats him with his daughter. So then game over. Why would Kang be a multiversal threat, even a universal threat, if one Avenger can defeat him with a little bit of help from the Wasp and from his daughter? Cassie Lang. Kang is underwhelming to me. I didn't know about Kang growing up as a kid. I didn't know about Thanos growing up as a kid. But Kang to me is it's not that's not something you build 10 years off of. It's not something that I think you build 2 years off of. You know, I think Kang, if you wanted to make him a villain of one thing or another, okay. But see, you haven't introduced the Fantastic Four, and Jonathan Majors, Kang the Conqueror, that was played by Jonathan Majors. It's Nathaniel Richards. He's a descendant of Reed Richards, who's Mr. Fantastic, but we haven't met Reed Richards yet. So why are you doing all this? See, that's the thing with Marvel Studios. It's like they had such a great 10 years, and they were building, 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 and it was like, we made a great movie and a great movie and a great movie and a pretty good movie and an okay movie and a great 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 movie, and then like a super blockbuster and another super blockbuster, and oh my goodness, people were crying in the theater. We have to, now that we've gotten to the top of the mountain, we have to stay at the top of the mountain. But they forgot how they got to the top of the mountain. You had to build the stories. It's not falling down the mountain to say, this is what we did in 10 years. We built up all these characters. We got you emotionally invested in them. And then some of them died. And then some of them parted. And some of them this. And with some of them we don't know what's going to happen with them. And it made it real. And now it's like, okay, we're at the top of the mountain. All these characters, you got to immediately fall in love with them. We don't have time to really give you their backstory because we got to get into the next crazy threat. You don't have to do Secret Wars right now. You don't have to do Secret Wars for another, 5 to 10 years because you need to tell the story. Number one, I want to make sure Deadpool's still going to be Deadpool. I want to believe it because Ryan Reynolds is attached to the project, and I don't think he would be if they wanted to, somehow make Deadpool more friendly and just kind and no blood and whatever. So Deadpool, to me, like, I want to make sure that works. I want to make sure that works because that was the one thing that Fox really got right. Fox had moments with the X-Men, and Fox, the way that they made Alan Cummings' Nightcrawler look was incredible. And that movie was made way back, and then seeing the Nightcrawler again when they made a younger version of the Nightcrawler, I thought that he was cool too. I love the character of the Nightcrawler. But Marvel Studios right now is all over the place. Phase 4 was a bust outside of seeing Guardians of the Galaxy Volume 3 and Black Panther Wakanda Forever when we talk about movies. Spider-Man, if we're talking post-Avengers Endgame, then obviously Spider-Man No Way Home was incredible too. But in these last few years, there's not a lot to write home about besides Black Panther Wakanda Forever and Guardians of the Galaxy Volume 3 because they stayed true to the characters. It was emotional. There was a lot to it. But again, we're talking about Ryan Coogler, and I've jokingly said this, but to me it's like whatever Disney propaganda, political, blah, blah, whatever, pandering toward whoever's important at that given time that they've maybe kind of sort of tried to like push into their movies and their products. It didn't happen with Ryan Coogler's movie, and I respect that, and I appreciate that. It didn't happen with James Gunn's movie. And I think that Marvel needs to really understand that now that James Gunn, who you temporarily fired and then almost lost your entire cast and then hired him back, I wonder if the cast didn't say we're not going to do Guardians Volume 3 without him, if Disney would have hired him back. I feel like if that didn't happen, they might have just been like, oh, we made a good decision. So James Gunn now co-leading DC forward, the DCU, the DC Universe, not DCEU, which is harder to say, and, just less there, you don't need to add the extra letter. The DCU now with James Gunn, I think that Marvel Studios and Disney really needs to understand that you had James Gunn, you kind of did him dirty, and then you let him, and then he came back, and when you were doing him dirty, he went and made the Suicide Squad. And then he went and took over the DCU, and now he's building it from the ground up. And I think Marvel needs to fully understand that DC is about to get better, and Grant Gustin might come back as the Flash. OMG, I would love that because he's my Flash. To me, he is the Flash. So, in the grand scheme of things, when we look at what's going on with Marvel, you don't have James Gunn anymore, who gave you one of your two best movies you've had in recent history. And, what are you going to do with Black Panther now? With Shuri taking over the mantle, and is Ryan Coogler going to continue that? And what's the hope for the future for that specific character? Outside of that, Marvel Studios has kind of forgot their secret sauce, forgot their model and their mix and who they are. Like I said, they spent a decade building up all these individual stories, realizing that you had to be connected to these characters. And maybe not all of them, but some of them. You wouldn't have cared that Black Widow died if you didn't learn about her through multiple movies. And then when they turn around and they make the Black Widow movie after she's already dead, and they go and make a retroactive movie, it's like, this is stupid. You're making this movie because you should have made the movie in the past and you didn't, and now it feels like you're trying to just save face by saying, look, we made a movie with a female lead, so that it's not just Wonder Woman with DC. Like, look, we care, we're equal. It seemed like just a forced project that fell on deaf ears, and it's not that the Black Widow movie was bad, it's just ill-timed because she's already dead. So literally anything that happens in this movie outside of introducing her sister and introducing the Red Guardian, what good does it do for the Black Widow? Nothing. What it does good for is it introduces the future of the Thunderbolts, if we ever see that movie. And, there's just a lot of projects that you wonder with Marvel Studios, where were they going? She-Hulk was a green woman on a dating app trying to have sexual relations. That is not what I thought She-Hulk was going to be. I thought that we were going to see a female version of Hulk. I know that she breaks the fourth wall. I know she's different than Bruce Banner. I don't know a ton about her. I didn't read it growing up, but I was excited to see She-Hulk. And if you watch it, it's like, it's a show about one-night stands with a big green monster, and they make Daredevil have a walk of shame in his costume with his boots off. It's like, it was such a disrespect. Like, I hope that they say that She-Hulk was in an Elseworld, like they do with DC, that they're like, hey, this is just some like crazy far-off planet that we're never going back to again, where Daredevil is not in the red, he's in the red and yellow, and he's Mr. Walk of Shame, and he's walking in broad daylight in a neighborhood far away from Hell's Kitchen, and She-Hulk is just concerned with dating. Like, I just felt like they did She-Hulk a disservice. I thought it was crappy. I liked Miss Marvel. I really did like Miss Marvel. And Werewolf by Night, I thought was, introduction to Man-Thing and all that. I thought that was incredible. I would have rather seen 6 episodes of Werewolf by Night and connect that to Moon Knight and Man-Thing and go to that darker monster side of Marvel and just stay off the She-Hulk dating app would have been nice. And then Echo, I liked Echo. What I don't like is that, having a similar power set to Daredevil with this reality of like, okay, she loses this, she has to do sign language, she can't hear, and so she kind of heightens everything else, which is pretty cool, but that's not what we got. They changed her story to give her superpowers, and that was just, I don't know. You know what I mean? It's like, why are you bringing in Miss Marvel and changing her story? Why are you bringing in Echo and changing her story? If you really believe in these characters and you really want to show these characters, and it's not just a pandering toward a specific genre of people that you want to reach, because that's, to me, it's like, yeah, you want to see people that look like you, and you want to see people that it's like, they come from the same country I came from, and they look the same as me. And this, like, I think that that's important, but it's important to do it not in a pandering way, and to do it not in a forced way, and to do it not in a just to say we did it way. Like, if you really believe in the character of Echo, then why couldn't Echo be Echo? If you really believe in Black Widow, then why didn't you tell her story before she died? I'm all about seeing these female leads, but not in this forced, like, we want to drive it down your throat that, like, this is what's important in society, and so we have to focus on this right now. why does Miss Marvel have to be a mutant? Why can't she be an Inhuman? And why are we so afraid of the Inhumans? Why are we so afraid of doing this right? Why would you bring back Black Bolt in the Illuminati in Earth 838 if you're going to take one of the other powerful Inhumans in Miss Marvel and change her backstory? I feel like Marvel Studios, they're doing these things either because they feel like they have to, or like we have to talk about this gender and this background and this color and this, and it's like, just tell the stories. Just tell the stories. Like, you told Black Panther, I believe you. You told Iron Man, I believe you. I didn't think Thor was going to work. I'm like, half, this demigod, like half god, comes from Asgard. It's another realm. I was like, And then I watched the movie and I was like, not bad. And then I went and saw, and then I jokingly said, how are they going to make a movie about a talking tree and a talking raccoon? And then I saw Guardians of the Galaxy Volume 1, and I immediately fell in love with it. So some of these have been a beautiful surprise, and other ones have just been, what are you doing? What is this? And if you're going to take the Netflix series and you're going to canon them into the Marvel Cinematic Universe, and they're going to put them in the timeline like I just told you where they are in the timeline, if you're going to do that with Daredevil and Jessica Jones and Luke Cage and Iron Fist and the Punisher, are you setting up the Marvel Knights? Are you setting up the Midnight Suns? If you're not doing either one of those things, why are these characters here? Why is Moon Knight here? Is he going to get to be in the Marvel Knights or the Midnight Suns? I want there to be a rhyme and a reason to what is happening here. Because to just pump out product doesn't mean it's great. And it just seems like they've forgotten about their formula. It seems like Marvel Studios forgot what made them awesome, which was telling really good individual stories and not forcing it, but if it made sense to bond those stories together, that eventually you would bond these characters together, a couple at a time, and then you'd have a big grouping. But the first Avengers made sense. The Chitauri coming through and this portal being open and this attack on New York, it made sense why we needed our Avengers. And then Age of Ultron made sense why we needed our Avengers against artificial intelligence, which apparently people don't understand in the real world now. I really don't want an Age of Ultron in the real world or anything like it. And then when we got to Infinity War, that was heartbreaking. And Endgame was, they tried to fix it and it didn't work. The first time they tried to fix it, it didn't work. Think about that. The second time they tried to fix it, it didn't work. They tried multiple times to get things right, to bring back all these souls, and it didn't work. The Avengers lost multiple times before they won. And then it's like, did they really win? Because in the 5 years of the blip, now people are living in people's houses, and so what do? Do you give the house back to the person that blipped? And kick the person out that it's not their fault that that house is available? Or, do you put that person in that was blipped and kick the new person out? Or do you tell the person, sorry about the blip, but you got to find somewhere else to live? There's all of these stories and these issues that are going on. Apparently, there's thousands upon thousands and maybe hundreds of thousands of Skrulls, maybe 1 million Skrulls. What's going on with the Kree? What is the point of Agents of S.H.I.E.L.D., which is a show I really liked? What are you going to do with it? Is Phil Coulson ever coming back? Can we get Quake in a movie? Can we get the Inhumans in a movie? Can we have Black Bolt and Medusa and Lockjaw and Miss Marvel where she's supposed to be in the Inhumans? And can we have Quake? That was one of my favorite parts of Agents of S.H.I.E.L.D. is when we learned about the Inhumans and they go into this cocoon and then they break out of it. That was so cool. And seeing the Kree and seeing space. Why is Agents of S.H.I.E.L.D. not canon into this MCU timeline? Right, we got all these other TV shows from Netflix, but we don't have the TV show from ABC, which is owned by Disney, that also owns Marvel Studios. So why is this not happening? And Jeff Loeb, I think, did a really good job of a lot of things that he worked on. I got to meet him, by the way. He was super nice. But Jeff Loeb, the head of Marvel TV at one point, and he was doing Cloak and Dagger, and he was doing The Runaways, and he was doing Agents of S.H.I.E.L.D. and the Inhumans. And the Inhumans didn't really work out, but the rest of them did, in my opinion. And I'm just really thrown. And why would you not want Cloak and Dagger in a world where you have these characters that can take light and turn it into weapons, which is what she does when she makes her daggers. And you have people traveling through portals, which is what Cloak does with his cloak. So you have erased characters that immediately make sense with what you're doing. And The Runaways was a really cool approach that was totally different, that went to the alien side, and you've been dealing with all these space aliens that you're not touching right now. So you like canceled or erased or temporarily put in purgatory shows like Runaways and Cloak and Dagger that could actually make a lot of sense with the stuff that you're doing right now. And you're not doing the Marvel Knights, and you're not doing the Midnight Suns. And so I don't understand what Excalibur is here for, and I don't understand why we introduced the Black Knight in Eternals, and I don't understand where Blade fits in anything, and I don't know why they made Moon Knight or why any of the Netflix characters are in the MCU now, because none of it's happening. And the movies that have been made just continue to put us in Elseworlds. The Marvels was like a Saturday morning cartoon. It wasn't. And it makes me sad because I feel bad for the actors and the actresses. It wasn't a good movie. It just wasn't. I liked it better the second time, but it just wasn't a good movie. In the Flash movie that they made with Ezra Miller, in this like retooling of what is going to be the DCU now, when they put that movie together, someone there wrote a script that said, hey, you know what a great idea is? Let's have a baby scene where they're all falling out of the sky, and he puts one in a microwave, and the microwave dings like the baby is meat and they just cooked it. And then after that happened, they said, hey, let's make a movie called The Marvels. And when we make the movie called The Marvels, let's save all the people on the Sword space station by having all of the Lurkins that look like cats temporarily eat the people and put them in their body portals. What is happening with Marvel? It's all over the place. You had characters that were set up. Nova. We've been to Xandar. We've met the Nova Corps. Marvel Knights and Midnight Suns, as I'd stated. We've already seen through Netflix Jessica Jones, Luke Cage, Iron Fist, Elektra, Daredevil, The Punisher. Hello. We brought in Moon Knight. What is going on with the Celestial, whose part of his head and one of his hands is sticking out of Earth? Would that not have thrown Earth off its axis? Would it have not have changed so many things? How does the moon react? And when the moon is hitting when the moon is affecting the tides, how do the tides react to a giant hand and a face in the ocean and in the planet? And I would think that a being that is poking out of our planet would just mess with the entire natural order and disaster and change the climate and just storms and weather patterns and throw the Earth off its axis and maybe put us into some crazy crisis that would bring about what could be the end of the world. But we're not touching any of these things. They're just making these stories and then making another story that has nothing to do with the previous story. That's not what you do. See, when Marvel started, they were making these individual stories, and the stories were making sense. And then they brought them together. Right now, you should be bringing characters together to figure out how, to get a giant saw and cut this Celestial. If the Celestial was essentially crowning, right? Who thought I was going to say that term? But it's crowning out of Earth. Earth is birthing the Celestial. And then the birth stopped, but that doesn't mean that the Celestial's body isn't in the core of the earth. And how are things normal now making sense? It doesn't make sense what Marvel Studios is doing. They're just throwing characters in. They're telling stories. Sometimes they feel like they're forcing themselves to tell a story. They're changing characters' backgrounds. If you're going to bring a character in, have the respect for that character to treat them as who they are. And is Venom here now? The symbiote, remember in Spider-Man No Way Home, there's a piece of the symbiote now. So how does the Venom with Tom Hardy, how does that version of Venom know Tom Holland, and why is the symbiote a piece of it now in Mexico in Earth 616? Where are these loose ends being tied up? When is this all going to make sense? And are they really just relying on Deadpool 3? Is Deadpool, did Ryan Reynolds sit down and write a script and say, hey, you have 47 plot holes, and in this one movie, we're going to have a billion different cameos. And amidst all of these cameos, we're going to, in a funny way, fix all of the stuff that you did that makes no sense. We're going to get the Celestial out of its crowning stage. We're going to go back in time and throw the seed out of Earth. We're going to make sense of how just absolutely uneducated the Illuminati was in Earth 838. I mean, what is the plan? And what about everybody that was caught in the Hex in WandaVision? And what about Agatha Harkness? And what about Mephisto? And I mean, nothing makes sense. Nothing that Marvel Studios has been doing makes any sense lately. It's like they built this entire model on how to be successful, and now they're like, well, now we just gotta, like I said, stay at the top of the mountain. We just gotta keep being successful. We gotta stay here. We don't have to build anything else. I don't want to go back down to come back up. Build another mountain. It took you 10 years to build the story that broke our hearts and mended our hearts. You have to get us emotionally connected to these characters now. Who's emotionally connected to Moon Knight? Who's emotionally connected to Miss Marvel? Who's emotionally connected to Photon? Who's emotionally connected to the Eternals? You know, people talk about having the superhero movie fatigue. I don't think it's fatigue as much as it's poor writing, lack of continuity, lack of planning, lack of connection. You can't call it the Marvel Cinematic Universe. Maybe the multiverse, maybe you weren't ready for it. Now that we're out in the multiverse, you don't even have 616 taken care of. So let's figure out how this crowning Celestial is going to get out of here before we move on to a story about the multiverse. And if Doctor Strange in the Multiverse of Madness broke the multiverse, and then She-Hulk kind of exposed the multiverse and the Kevin robot, and the Marvels broke the barrier between the multiverse, and Loki broke the barrier between the multiverse. If there's all these multiversal barrier breakers, habitual line steppers, what are we doing now? Like, who truly broke it? Did everybody break it? Did some people break it? Did Wanda break it? It's like Wanda broke it, Loki broke it, Thanos broke it with the snap. She-Hulk exposed it. The Marvels broke it. Or in the movie The Marvels, it was broken by Dar-Benn. Doctor Strange in the Multiverse of Madness, we saw it broken there with Wanda even more. And in Spider-Man No Way Home, Doctor Strange broke it then. So, and then if we're going to take What If as canon, which is supposed to be canon, then it was broken in What If by Doctor Strange Supreme. So, which sounds like a burger, but I'm trying to, like, I love Marvel. I absolutely love Marvel, and Spider-Man is my favorite character. And I'm concerned that Marvel is not really working together. Are the TV people working with the movie people? Because DC fell apart because of continuity error, because they had multiple different actors and actresses playing the same characters, because there was no rhyme or reason to what was going. There was no connection between TV and movies, and there was just these issues of like, what is this and what is that and what makes sense and why are there so many Jokers? Like, what is going on? And I don't want Marvel to reboot. I want Marvel to be able to step forward. But in order to step forward, they have to step back and they have to understand that what they've built. I just reappeared. What they've built, I went through a portal. And apparently Ned Leeds opened it up for me. Shout out Ned. Because he's got that Doctor Strange magic, baby. And we're kind of lost in Marvel Studios right now. And if Deadpool can find a funny way to cameo a bunch of people and fix a bunch of things, then maybe we can get this thing right. But I never thought that Marvel would have the same problem that DC has, which was like the Flash was supposed to just run through time and Flashpoint was supposed to correct all of DC's continuity errors and all their issues and lack of connection between the TV world and the movie world. Does Deadpool have to be the Flash now? Does Deadpool eventually have to Flashpoint this thing? Is he going to make a joke to this in the movie? Is he going to say, like, move over, Flash, this is my Flashpoint? And are we going to see Deadpool make a reference to the fact that I'm the Marvel's Flash? Is he going to kill Ezra Miller in the his version of the Flash? I mean, I'm excited for Deadpool, and at the same time, I'm just wondering what Marvel Studios' plan was, because it just kind of seems like they were telling all these stories, and that's all well and good, but you got to make sense of what you're doing. I mean, they look genius. Think about what were people saying about DC? Why aren't they copying Marvel? Why aren't they following the Marvel formula? Well, Marvel Studios is not following the Marvel Studios formula anymore. I would rather wait a year or two for a movie than to have 3 shows and 2 movies come out and they have no connection. Stop confusing people. Remember when Jurassic Park came out and then Jurassic Park 2, The Lost World came out, and then they brought Jurassic Park 3 out and said that it took place between 1 and 2, and you were like, that makes no sense, because in your brain, 3 comes after 2, not in the middle of 1 and 2, and the movie bombed, and it wasn't great, and it started off by making no sense. So I feel like they have to move forward, And if the Black Widow movie happened so far back in the timeline, then, why? I mean, look at how far back this was. This was like 30 movies/TV shows ago. Why is Natasha Romanoff's sister so young still? And is the Red Guardian just not going to age like Captain America because he's one that had the super soldier serum as well? It seems like the longer time goes by, the more errors of continuity and connection we have with Marvel. It's ballooned to a point where it's insane. But as we go forward now, the question now becomes, is eternity now love? Are eternity and love separate entities? Or in the MCU, unlike the comic book, is eternity now love due to Thor, Love, and Thunder? Werewolf by Night, where did that take place? Is the werewolf coming? Is it going to be there, or is the man-wolf going to be there? Because then there's the man-wolf, which is John Jameson, when he finds that gem on the moon, when they also find the symbiote, that becomes Venom that we didn't know. He didn't know that he brought it back with him, but he became Man-Wolf. Are we going to see that? Are we just going to see Werewolf? Where is the Man-Thing? Where are all these other characters? How do they fit in? Is Shang-Chi have any place in the Marvel Cinematic Universe? Where these dragons and this Mephisto-looking thing is trying to break out? Is Kang done? What is Peter Quill going to do? What is this new team of the Guardians going to look like? Do the Skrulls even matter? Or are we going to pretend like they're not on Earth, just like we're pretending that there's no Celestial jutting out of Earth in multiple places? And where are the X-Men? What universe? Is it 838? Is my deep cut thought about Earth 838 Illuminati and that entire thing was the Danger Room because Professor X was the leader and they were already prepared for Wanda to come, and they had to make Doctor Strange feel like they were unprepared because they were skeptical of him and studying him too. And so that entire thing was the Danger Room, and Wanda didn't really kill anybody, and the Illuminati's still there, and that's the Professor X, who is from the old cartoon TV show, which is the connection to the new cartoon TV show, which is in connection to the X-Men's evolution from the first 3 movies from 20th Century Fox, which is why Kelsey Grammer's back as Beast. So we're going to see Earth 616 and 838, and those are the ones that are going to collide and form an incursion, which is going to bring us to Battle World and eventually to Secret Wars. That would make sense! But nothing's making sense. And this is why I'm at a loss right now with Marvel Studios. Because they can fix it, but they're not fixing it. They're just breaking more things. It's like a bull in a china shop. Instead of, the bull's not going to pick up the plate that it knocked over, but if it tries to lean to pick up the plate with its mouth, it's going to knock over a lamp. And that's what I feel like is happening. I love Marvel, and I love the fact that me, as a kid, never thought in any part of my life that I was going to get to see one movie, let alone all of these characters, and that it was going to take off the way it has, so that like millions of people are watching the characters from the comic books that I collected and read as a child. It's awesome. But you can't just rest on the laurels of, hey, we were really good 10 years ago. Hey, we really knew what we were doing 5 years ago. We're at a place right now where we have to really pay attention to what is happening. And Marvel Studios can't just sit here and go, yeah, we're going to mail it in and we're just going to kind of keep making stuff to keep making money, because ultimately, what are you doing for the good of the MCU if you're not following your own model, which is you had a great first 10 years, now let's build the next 10. And I never thought Kang was the answer. I never thought that character was the answer. And I wasn't afraid of a room full of Kangs. Now, and I don't want to see Doctor Doom go into Secret Wars, because then we're going to skip everything with the fans. Why can't we make 2 to 3 Fantastic Four movies before Doctor Doom and Secret Wars? Doctor Doom has to get more powerful over time. He doesn't walk in to the Marvel Cinematic Universe and he's just incredible. He's just so strong. He's the strongest ever. And nobody knew about him. And the thing is, if the Fantastic Four are in Earth 616, where did they get lost? They didn't get lost in the quantum realm, because Ant-Man has already been there multiple times and we didn't see them. So to say that they're there and to say he just happened upon missing them, now the quantum realm is its own multiversal whatever, but do we really want to go back to the quantum realm for the Fantastic Four and connect it to Ant-Man Quantumania, which really didn't get received well? I didn't think it was bad. I didn't think it was, again, the story. And it's, if we say that the Fantastic Four have been in Earth 616 the whole time, that's ridiculous. And I don't know how they're going to tell the story. But when we meet the Fantastic Four, they need to come from somewhere else. They either were in Earth 616 and they got lost somewhere in time, in a portal, in whatever, in the negative zone. There's somewhere that's not Earth 616. Because to say we just missed them on the streets of New York City is outrageously stupid. Now, people believe a lot of dumb things in today's America, but I would like to hope that we can get away from that and get back to intelligence, a general common sense. Don't say the Fantastic Four were here hiding in plain sight and we just didn't know. So they got to figure out that story, because the Fantastic Four is an opportunity to do things right. I mean, that's a reset button in and of itself. You introduce Marvel's first family, and I mean, you can go anywhere, but you can't bring Doctor Doom into it quickly. You just can't. I don't mind the way that they did it with 20th Century Fox. When the first time we met the Fantastic Four, we also met Victor Von Doom, and they were all affected by this same very strange occurrence and scientific accident or fate, whatever you want to call it. But they were all affected at the same time. So the Fantastic Four became the Fantastic Four, and Victor Von Doom became Doctor Doom at the same time. That was cool. And I'm okay with that. You know what I mean? We can't push Secret Wars down the line. You don't need it right now. We got way too many stories to tell. We got a Wolverine this thing. We got a Deadpool this thing. We got an X-Men this thing. We got a Illuminati this thing. Marvel's Illuminati. Let's be real. You know, we got to figure it. There's so many things we have to figure out. You know, and set some records straight. And maybe that's Deadpool. Maybe Deadpool was always going to have Deadpool 3, but Kevin Feige went to Ryan Reynolds and said, maybe he didn't say this, but maybe Ryan Reynolds said, you guys have royally just effed this whole thing up, and I'm going to fix it. And the whole movie is him breaking the fourth wall, showing us how stupid all this stuff is and how messed up all this stuff is and how none of it makes any sense, and he's going to make it right. Because he's going to be the one that saves the Marvel Cinematic Universe instead of killing the Marvel Universe as he did in the comics. So, let's see. Maybe Deadpool's the answer. All I know is I love seeing the movies, but I'm getting exhausted of the way they're telling stories, the politicizing of things, the polarizing of things. They're not talking about characters. Like, they're not telling stories anymore. They're not telling the stories of the characters. And you can't tell me they are when they're changing the characters' powers and backstories. What's next? You're going to make Spider-Man, but he wasn't bitten by a spider. He was bitten by a giraffe. I mean, stop making things more complicated than they need to be. And stop thinking you got to strike gold on everything. Strike silver, strike bronze, build the base. Ant-Man wasn't as big as Iron Man. Right? Captain America maybe followed more than Thor. Captain America 2, Winter Soldier, really good. Thor the Dark World, Thor 2, not that great to a lot of people. But that's okay. Because you still wanted to see Thor come back. Even though you might have not liked the Dark World, you still wanted to see Thor in a movie. You still wanted to see Thor fight things. You still want to see him fight the Hulk in Ragnarok. You still wanted to see him join the Avengers again. You can't make movies for the sake of making movies. You have to. Because then you're doomed to become everything else. You're doomed to become Back to the Future 3, where you're like, what is this train? What happened to the DeLorean? Why are we doing this? Jurassic Park 3, what's happening? 3 took place in between 1 and 2, so why didn't you call it Jurassic Park 1.5? I feel like Marvel came out here and they've just owned the market. And sometimes when you're just out here shooting threes and you're just knocking them, not like you're Caitlin Clark in these threes, just bang, 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 bang. Maybe you get bored and maybe you don't try as hard. But then you start missing the threes And, you know, you got to go back to practice and you got to keep doing it. Just because you made a lot of threes doesn't mean you stop practicing. It doesn't mean you stop lifting. It doesn't mean you stop watching film and you stop running and you stop lifting weights and doing cardio. Like, you got to keep doing the things that got you where they got you. And Marvel is not doing those things right now. And they need that leadership. And I'm more than willing to work on the Spider-Verse for you. So, with that being said, this has been this edition of Super Powered Pop from inside the Parker Banner Kent and Wayne Studios. Head there for all your comic book and gaming needs on 21500 Catawba Ave, Suite A in Cornelius, North Carolina, just outside of Charlotte. It is my favorite comic book shop. Go there for comic books and collectibles too. I say my favorite comic book shop because they got a ton of stuff in there. They have gamings and collectibles, all this different stuff. But whenever I go in, I'm always like just having deep conversations with owner Matt Milburn about the comic book side. But there's so many things there. They have gaming nights, packed houses of people playing a bunch of different games. So make your way out, whether it's the games that you love, the collectibles that you love, the comics that you love, young and old. Such a fantastic place. We do our Friday finds on our social media at Superpowered Pop on Fridays to show you all the great comics that are currently available from Parker Banner, Kent, and Wayne while supplies last. Make sure you get yourself over there today. Much appreciation to Matt Milburn and his entire family, as well as his entire staff. Thank you so much for your hard work. Thank you for being the difference that I love to come out and see and promote. Parker Banner, Kent, and Wayne. Find them on social media at PBKW or PBKW_comics. You can also look up Parker Banner, Kent, and Wayne here on Facebook, and you can look up their website, Parker Banner, Kent, and Wayne. Just search that in any search engine. You'll find their website, 21500 Catawba Ave, Suite A in Cornelius, North Carolina, just outside of Charlotte, which is one of the fastest growing cities in America. Let them know that you heard from me when you go in. And we'll be back very soon on Superpowered Pop for more stories. Today's episode, how do we fix the Marvel Cinematic Universe? Hopefully, some of this helped. Would love to get your thoughts. Reply with those, and have a wonderful day. And remember, your hero lies within.